How to let go and just be free. The time is now, it's destiny. Surrender now that I have found a way to keep somehow. One core truth in me, glow upon victorious to win the race. The time is now, it's destiny. Surrender now that I have a way to keep somehow. I walk it every day and then I realize there's more to life than bitterness and lies. I close my eyes. I found the way, the course that leads to ease, of liberating path that frees. I found the way, the course that leads to ease, liberating path that frees. I will let go and just be free. The way is clear, the victory. How to let go now that I've found a way to keep right now. The true, unbroken love. Death and impermanence are in samsara is suffering. True Dharma is available now. Don't squander your don't worry, nothing has happened. Honey Deep was fine. I'm not stressed out. But sometimes when you come face to face with the majesty of the spirit of the Dharma, you stand trembling in its presence. Let's see how this is going to work. Okay, what page are we on? I'm going to try. Yeah, 20 something. 3. Um, okay. Yeah. So let's start at 3:23 today, and if we weren't there, read the rest on your own. Yeah. Just as all the Buddhas of the past embrace the awakening attitude of mind, and in the precepts of the Bodhisattvas, step by step abode and trained, just so, and just for the benefit of beings, I will also have this attitude of mind, and in those precepts, step by step, I will abide and train myself. The words step by step are important here because even the fully awakened ones train step by step, and we follow their example. Since this vow can be broken by one harsh word or flash of anger, we would obviously be wise to be patient with ourselves and give up hope of always getting it right. We can renew our intention to stay open again and again and again. Every morning before I get out of bed, I recite these 2 verses 3 times, and then I start my day. There are 3 approaches to working with the Bodhisattva vow. Our commitment can be made with the attitude of a king or a queen or a ferryman or a shepherd. These images represent ways to go forward realistically, step by step, given our current capabilities. At the level of a king or queen, we work on ourselves first. Although our specific intention is to benefit others, we know that this is only possible if we ourselves wake up. Anyone who works in the helping professions knows how easy it is to lose one's patience or to feel aversion. It soon becomes obvious that we can't do the work of benefiting others until we've put our own kingdom in good working order. The next level is the aspiration of the ferryman. Here we find ourselves in the same boat with all sentient beings crossing the water together. The analogy has a sense of just like me. Just like me, all beings experience themselves as the central character in life's drama. Like me, they're enslaved by attachments and aversions, hopes and fears. No one wants to experience physical or emotional pain any more than I do. We all want to feel safe and free from fear. With this as the basis of our Bodhisattva training, we reach out beyond our self-centered version of reality and bring others into our lives. And when our own depression or resentment arises, it becomes a stepping stone to understanding the darkness felt by others. If we have insomnia, a toothache, a burn, or cancer, instead of making us retreat into our own little world, it becomes the basis for empathy and loving kindness. This approach also works when things are going well, when we feel relaxed and happy. We can remember that others also enjoy these states of mind. They too want to feel comfortable and at home with themselves and their world. May all of us be happy and at our ease, and may we all experience the clarity and freshness of our mind. The next image, the shepherd, represents what we generally think of as real compassion. Just as shepherds put the welfare of their sheep before their own, we aspire to put others before ourselves. This is how most of us think we should work with our Bodhisattva commitment, but truthfully, not many of us feel we can do it. Of course, we all have been in situations where we spontaneously put others first. We've given our bus seat to an elderly person, or we stayed up all night with a troubled friend. Parents do it all the time. They'll even run into traffic to pull their toddler to safety. But to hold this as our only model would definitely be misleading. Instead, we can proceed at any of these three levels: king or queen, ferryman, or shepherd. To awaken bodhicitta, we start where we are and we go forward step by step. So this says that we have to have a great wish in mind. Even when we are in the king or queen position and we are thinking about our own enlightenment, our own awakening, our own ease, our own comfort, our own clarity, there is still something about holding that position, because a king lives for his people, for righteous government, for care and concern. So the only way a king takes care of himself is by taking care of his people. And such a king in the Majjhima Nikaya, he says that this is a good king. Said the bad king is one who's only interested in his own welfare. And one needn't take a vow for that. You just do what you do, you know. But when one takes a vow, the purpose of a vow is to move us forward. And sometimes in taking that vow, we set up a circumstance, and be careful about your vows. We set up a circumstance that requires or causes us to have to move forward to get out of the space that we're in. So sometimes we think troubles are coming upon us, particularly when we start practicing, sincerely. And it's not that troubles are, like they say, like where, when anything good is happening, there's the devil. They used to say always, there's the devil, they're waiting to thwart it, But it's not really that way. I mean, that's a way that you can look at it. Whenever I would do good, evil's always with me. But when you really have a sincere effort to do good, and then you find your way troubled, and you are not making it that sincere effort, and you find that your way is, you have so many obstacles and blockages, it just seems like everything starts dumping on you. A way that you can think about that is, I am entering into my great wish. I'm entering into my great wish. I can tell you that sometimes the only way that we're going to step in to our great wish is through the doorway of trouble. It's through overcoming obstacles. Because before we overcome them, we don't really know what our capacity is. We just think we know. And if we go on things we've thought about other things, we know how off our thinking or our thoughts are. And the confidence then is not there all the time that we can attain, that we can reach the goal, because we've thought other things about ourselves. And in the moment when trouble came, we were not able to walk in our good faith. And so we're always remembering and always reminded that we may not live out what we say. We can't always live the life that we sing about in our song. But if we shift the way we hold obstacles and see them as something merely to be overcome, in the sense of to not mentally let them overcome us. We go through it. So we talk about praise and blame, loss and gain, pleasure and pain, fame and shame. the 8 worldly winds. You know, there's 4 of them that we like, and there's 4 of them that we have an aversion to. I mean, more than have an aversion to them, they actually bring us suffering, because in our mind, we've already determined that there is nothing to be gained from the interaction, from the event, from the thing that we have to go through. But if we could change our view about that, then we would change the whole way that the circumstance appears to us. And we can't always change it right in the beginning. When we first started working with the Samo, Supreme and Unsurpassable, we abbreviated in the book. But one day when I was talking to Master ZZ, and I was saying, you know, in Samo, it's such on, she said, Samo, what's that? I said, the Supreme and Unsurpassable Mahamudra of Liberation. She said, well, call it that. I said, you came up with the abbreviation. She said, that was just for writing. That's not for speaking of it. She said, when you speak of it, speak it out, the whole thing. And I'm like, okay. But it is a mouthful. But think about it, the Supreme and Unsurpassable Mahamudra, Great Seal of Liberation. That's the practice that we're doing. When we're doing the practice, it doesn't seem that supreme. It doesn't seem that great. You know, it's a very kind of simple practice. Part 1 is contemplating death, like I might die this afternoon, you know, and it takes you to this whole contemplation to develop a sense of urgency to practice now. And then in part 2, one is stepping away from their preliminary cultivation, because this is actually cultivation, it's not meditation. And they're stepping away from that, and now they're shifting the mind, and because they've cleaned themselves up, and they're sitting solid on a rock. But what about all the people who are suffering, who are floundering, who are dying, who are caught in their delusions? You know, what about them? What about them? And then one says, in this uplifted space, I now become the vanquisher, and I step in for them. Now, that can be hard to do if one hasn't prepared one's mind. It's like the person who's trying to do Tonglen, and they're down and depressed, and then they're breathing in all the negative energy of people who are down and depressed. And the purpose of the practice is to be able to purify it between the in-breath and the out-breath, you know. But it comes in and mixed with yours, and now you're more down and depressed than before, because you haven't first taken care of what you needed to take care of for the sake of living beings. So even when one is doing something, having a mind that I need to take care of this, I need to have a different way of looking at the obstacles that come in my life. I need to have a different way of holding. Maybe I could just stop calling them obstacles. I mean, you should know an obstacle, but once you know it, then there's no point in just keep, you know, considering it an obstacle. Once you recognize that something's an obstacle, then your whole vision should be on how to keep moving. And you're not resting constantly on the obstacle. When you are steadily walking, the obstacle has no footing, has no ground in your heart and in your mind. And it's by virtue of that that you can surmount the difficult spaces. He didn't say that in order for you to be okay, that the difficult things have to be removed. So there is a way to surmount. And so even a king has some mind, a good king, of what his responsibility is to the other, to his kingdom, to his subjects. And he does what's in their interest in looking after his own welfare. Do you understand the difference? And that's one way we begin to gradually shift and move out of so much selfing. I mean, you just can't go around and say, like, I'm doing this for the sake of all living beings, you know. I mean, but when one really understands the difference, there's a loosening of the need to take care of oneself, but one naturally takes care of oneself without a lot of me. I was talking to somebody the other day, and she was so upset with herself. She said, everything that I talk about is about me, 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 me. She said, I just don't even want to teach anymore because it's all about me, me, me. And I told her, you are in such a wonderful place. Because usually when we talk about me, we try to do it without saying me, so that people don't realize that we're selfing, as if they can't know that we're selfing. You know, mostly when we do that, we're trying to act like we're being magnanimous and gracious and generous and all of that. And like, did they notice? And so it's, that's the way when we're selfing. But when we recognize our inordinate, affection for ourselves, we can't stand it. We can't tolerate it. It hurts to even hear it. It hurts to look at it and see it. But what a wonderful place we are in. Because now we're really coming to know ourselves. And we're also seeing for ourselves firsthand how that constant contact with a contrived self actually brings us personal suffering. I don't give me up because y'all say I need to give up self. I give me up when I don't like it. That's the only time we can give it up. When it becomes a nuisance to us, then we start looking and considering how we can help someone else, support someone else, save someone else. And even as we're looking, there is no thought, I am doing this. There's just the doing. A couple of weeks ago, I got a quick email from Tsuka, and she said, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to be at Dharma for a couple of weeks. They just dispatched me to the, what was in Texas? The tornadoes in Texas. And, when they call her, she drops everything, packs her little bag, and she's gone. It's just like that. It's no thought of I am doing. It's just the one who hears the cries of the world. When you hear the cry, you get up and move. I remember one time I was, it's when I was in the Pentecostal church, and we were always doing for people, and we would get so tired sometimes, and we'd say, that's it, I'm done. I'm not doing anything else. I've given 150%. And we sit down and we talk, we ain't doing nothing else. And then a cry would go out, like ding, 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 like Pavlov's dog, As soon as we heard the cry, the bell, we like jump up like a dog, and we'd be ready to go. But we had just talked about how we're not doing this. I don't think all of this is required, and we find all the scriptures that supported that view, And but it gets like that. And so there becomes this spontaneous response, not just to the suffering of the world, but also a spontaneous response to the joys of the world. Sometimes we misunderstand and think we're not supposed to have any joy on this path, but the joy is one of the enlightenment factors. You can have anything you want to have as long as it doesn't have you. You can have anything you want to have if you have also considered the needs of others. You're part of the whole. Consider your own needs, and not only your own needs, but your own wants, your own wishes. And one just works out of what is their own great wish. So we shouldn't criticize, others. Or we shouldn't, once we start doing the thing, we think everybody's supposed to do that if they're going to be like good, or if they're going to be like spiritual or holy. Whatever I'm doing at the minute, whatever I'm working on at the minute, I think everybody should be working on that. But it's not so. It's not like that. That's why we can't look so closely at others. If they're doing something that you think takes away from what you're trying to attain, you just don't have to be with them. You don't have to criticize them and say, oh, but they should be doing such and such. You just don't have to be with them. When you get a little stronger, you can be with them, and you won't be perturbed or put off by them. I say that to the one who would so easily judge others. Because the thing is that with whatever force you judge others, you also judge yourself. So sometimes we're crushed by self-judgment and don't recognize it as judgment. But if you're one who judges and criticizes others, then know that you're sitting under the burden of a lot of self-judgment. And he gives us in the passage that we read the way how to come out of that. He said, by embracing the awakened attitude of mind and step by step training. Who are we training? Who? Yeah. We're training ourselves. And for the benefit of beings, I will also have this attitude of mind. And then those precepts, step by step, I will abide, and I will train myself. I'm going to skip the ferryman and I'm going to go to the shepherd. Because that's when you know that you're getting close to understanding and spontaneously entering the Bodhisattva path. It's when you are able to put the welfare of others before yourself. And sometimes people think you're crazy, and or sometimes you just might be. That means that sometimes we have what's called crazy compassion, unwise compassion. But I would rather make a mistake in my compassion by giving to someone who didn't deserve it than to always be judging if someone is worthy of something. For one reason, it's because I know myself that everyone needs a little mercy from time to time, right? I know that there are things that I have inherited that I absolutely have not deserved. I know that grace has been afforded to me at times that I was absolutely out of line, unappreciative, ungrateful. I know that there are times that people gave me the benefit of the doubt. I know that others are just like me. And if the law of sowing and reaping is true, then I should think about being merciful. I should think about who I would consider a good friend. And I usually talk about a good friend does what's hard to do and gives what's hard to give. That's my favorite thing about a good friend. But a good friend also tries to give you wise counsel. Good friend won't always agree with you when it's to your detriment. A good friend will speak up. Sometimes that even breaks a friendship. But if one keeps walking the path, when the feelings that are over, when the crush of the moment is over, and one can think in their right mind, then one can accept the advice of a friend, and one can forgive the shortcomings of a friend. Buddha Master, there's never, how can I say this? Buddha Master, by his own example, is teaching me how to be prepared for if it if it actually occurs that way, how to be prepared for upon your deepest death. Now, I might die before him. Some days I feel like I will. Yeah, because I've gotten so comfortable, and just because something is required of me, and my energy is not all that it should be. That's not his fault. That's my fault. I need to work on that. It's not a self-judgment, but it is a fact. And maybe having to do a little bit more now in a physical sense that that tires me out. But I sat there this morning thinking about it. He looked at me. He said, "You're so busy." He said, "How can I help you?" He said, "What do you want me to do?" And then he started calling off some things that he could have done at one time, but he can't do it now. And he was like, "Do you want me to take your books out to the car?" He said, "I can do that. I can take your books out to the car for you." he said, and then he wrote, says, I don't know if I could give Dharma though today. You know, he said, and I looked, I was so touched by his sincerity. You know, he was so sincere. And he showed me where my weak spots are. But the one thing I'm not sad about is that a departure appears to be imminent. It may not be. But I have no, I can honestly tell you, I have no sorrow around that. Because after Buddha Master died, he's been talking to me more than when he was in California. You know? And it's not because he's talking to me. It's because he's changing my understanding of death. And I thought I understood it pretty well. More like you just have to accept because it's going to happen. There's nobody whose family has not been touched by death. There's nobody. So that's just like a thing here. You know. But now this is something else, though, that I'm experiencing with Buddha Master. And it's not about him appearing to me in a way that says, see, told you I was enlightened. See, I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. It's not like that at all. But it's in a way that that the things that I said, I believe and I understand, but had not experienced. I'm having the experience of it so that I can know something for myself. And we say all kinds of things like it's just like dropping off your clothing and all of that. But when that situation comes knocking at your door, that's when the true story is told. And I can truthfully say, those of you who are in deep sorrow around Panyadeepa's demise, don't be. He ties up loose ends. It's so encouraging for me to watch. And it gets brighter and brighter every day. There's something in the peace and the serenity. The other day, his eyes were closed, and I said, because he keeps them closed like most of the time. And I said, Panyadeepa. He said, and I think he's asleep, but he's not asleep. Every once in a while, there's a conversation going on, and he'll whisper something because he can't talk too loud. He'll whisper something. But he was listening to our conversation. I thought he was asleep. I said, well, why are your eyes closed? He said, it's better in here. And not running away from something, if you understand, but towards something. And he is so helped me shift my sights from the ordinary things of this world. I have to admit it's a little bit selfish because doctors think he's like, what do you call it, hallucinating? But I think he's like just traveling around, you know, not so tethered to the body, sort of in and out. So they put him on medicine. for hallucinating. So we took him off the medicine a week ago. On day number 3, and I asked him, did he want to come off of it? He said yes. He's immobile, he can't get out the bed, so I'm not worried about him moving around, hurting himself, or anything like that. And on day number 3, he said, I feel like I have just come out of a big black tunnel, and gripped in a vice. And so he said, thank you for letting me have my own mind. So all of this studying that we're doing, it's not just for the sake of studying. It's so that one can know one's own mind. Not the example that we put up here for other people. Not how scholarly we are and how we can Paul parrot and just tear apart and articulate the suttas. But how well we can live this life with ease. In any place we see a troubling in the water, we should tend to that. And when we have learned how to comfort ourselves, then we can comfort others with the comfort that we have given to ourselves. And then it sounds true. Doesn't ring hollow. That's actually all transmission is. When one has inwardly awakened to something, and they can speak of it, and it rides on a vessel of life, and it enters another. So the words that Buddha Master spoke to me, they were life. And when they wake you up in that way, you can speak them to others. They don't have to sound like much. They just have to have been realized. So the ferryman is the one who is realizing something. And he's sharing it as he's realizing it. And then the shepherd is the one who has attained. You think of shepherd as low position, king as a high position in our societies. But in spiritual land, it's the other way around. I will abide and train myself that this most pure and spotless state of mind might be embraced and constantly increased. The prudent who have cultivated it should praise it highly in such words as these. Today, my life has given fruit. This human state has now been well assumed. Today, I take my birth in Buddha's line and have become the Buddha's child and his heir. So having recited, and not just recited the 2 key verses of the vow, but really internalizing them, taking them up, understanding the aspiration, and entering into it, he says, then we rejoice. Today, my life has given fruit. This human state has now been well assumed. Today, or taken up, today I take my birth in Buddha's line and have become the Buddha's child and heir, and having rejoiced from his point of view, once we make the commitment and begin to practice training our mind, we are already bodhisattvas. We call ourselves causal bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas in the causal state. We're doing the things that will create the fruit of the Bodhi mind. This is an encouraging way to look at our spiritual journey. In some schools of thought, this doesn't occur until sometime in the distant future, but Shantideva says that having taken the vow, we're already the Buddha's child and heir. What's more, we have this book as our training guide. In every way, then, I will undertake activities befitting such a rank, and I will do no act to mar or compromise this high and faultless lineage. We change clans. We move from the human family to the family of the awakened ones. In the Theravada, they call it changing lineage. But if we think of lineage just as like, patriarchal downlines, we will miss the essence of this. We will miss how spectacular and how great it is to move out. All we have to do is turn on the news to see what humans are capable of doing to humans. And we know then that it's not so much a state to be desired. But if this is the highest of the pecking order, then there'd be no hope. But because it's not, there is hope. And we don't have to die to enter into it. We can take up the great aspiration. And though we fail 1,000 times, we can take it up, that great vow, again and again and again. And although we see our shortcomings more and more and more as we take up the vow, we also rejoice in the aspiration by bringing it onto the path, so that it's not going to be something we will attain by and by in the future. But we take it upon ourselves as if we have it right now. And if you understand that, then you'll begin to understand what Buddha Dharma is. And you'll understand how to meditate. The confusion in meditating right now is because we haven't brought the aspiration onto the path as if it's right now. So the true Buddha Dharma has 3 aspects: preliminary practices, right? The main or formal practice, and the concluding practice. The preliminary practices are all the things that we're doing right now, watching our thoughts, our actions, our speech, minute by minute. Stopping and reflecting 2 or 3 times in the day. How have I done? How am I doing? What's going on with me right now? What could I have done better? How will I do better? What changes do I need to make to be able to do better? Sometimes we can't tunnel through. Sometimes we have to take a pause, a break. We have to go to the rest stop. And that's okay. But just know, be aware of what's happening with you. Look and see where your edges are being softened. You don't have to worry about whether anybody else sees it. Just look and see if you see it. And rejoice in it when you see it. Doesn't matter if anybody else sees it. I was fussing at Pop last week about something. And he was saying something, and I was disputing his view about it. He said, "Oh, okay, Ma." He said, "I know you feel that way." He said, "But I know it. I know it about me." And I didn't say anything to him, but it's out. That's my boy. Because knowing something about himself, you see what I mean? So when you know when you're being authentic, when you're being genuine, when you're being good, that means you also know when you're not. And what a wonderful place to be in. I think I'm going to stop right there. I was touched when I walked in the door. I mean, I was touched so deeply around the vow. I was overcome by the thought of the power of a vow and why taking vows are so important and why reminding ourselves of the vow is so important. How it speaks of our own great wish. And when we keep a vow, we keep a promise or a wish to ourselves. When we break a vow, even though it might affect someone else negatively, when we break a vow, we destroy a relationship with ourselves. And when that came up to me, those words, "Tell me the truth," I want to know where to look and how to go, how to find true peace. I need to understand to bring my suffering to an end. Release the love I hold inside. Let me be true and never hide behind a face of fear or animosity. Break the chains of misery. How to let go and just be free. The time is now. The victory. How to let go. Now that I've found the way to keep right now a true, unbroken vow. And the song goes on to say, "The noble path. I walk it every day and still I realize there's more to life than misery and lies. I found the way, the course that leads to ease, a liberating path that frees. So I will let go. I will be free." When? Right now. That's victory. How to let go now that we found a way to keep our vow. May you be blessed today. May you love and cherish yourself. May you fully accept yourself. May you be inspired to aspire to your own great wish for awakening. And may you hold every other sentient being in that same